Hello and welcome to another. Kilian, why are you small? Here we go. Welcome to another fully live Q&A episode of Hacking with Friends with Kilian and myself, both researchers at Varonis. Although Kilian, I know you do much more than that as well. Good to see you on our Wednesday stream. An unusual presence here on our Wednesday stream, but very good to have as we have the run up to the RSAC conference. Great to see you, Kilian.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This is, I think, the first Wednesday one I've been on, so throwing everybody a curveball here.
Breaking new ground. And we also have some stuff to talk about this upcoming conference where we are going to be live. So if you are Kilian super fans, then it's finally time. You can all get on your tour bus and drive on down to San Francisco and see the man himself at the booth, because we're going to be there recording some videos. We're going to have prizes to give away. So it's going to be really nice because you will be bribed for doing videos with us in general. So there will be awesome swag at the Varonis booth, of course, but also ourselves. And that's going to be very fun and cool. Kilian and I are going to be testing out new video rigs, which we're very excited about. So if there's any video nerds out there, I got an Canon R50, and Kilian, you're going to be rocking that weird, sneaky little gimbal camera, right? The Osmo.
Yeah, the little Osmo Pocket 3. I had a little bit of time to do some dry runs, so curious to really put it through its paces. So I didn't know you got an R50. I'm interested to check that out.
Yeah, it's got, like, when I cracked it open, you know, I've been doing like still photography for forever. So I cracked it open expecting to see a mirror, and instead it's just that sensor crammed right against the lens. I'm like, this is so incredibly small. And it's so light too that my entire kit now is just this little tiny bag. So I'm going to be hopefully recording a lot more video, but now that I have it out and now that I'm doing it, I'm like, man, I wish this was stabilized, and you went ahead and got the thing that basically solves that problem. So I'm interested to see what it's like for tripod mounted stuff. I think it's awesome, and I really like it. I've shot some like really fun B-roll, and that's kind of what I wanted it for. But for shooting on the go stuff, or for making something as chaotic as a conference look good, it's just going to be all shaky, and even with a wide angle lens, it's just going to be a little bit So if any of you guys also do videography or anything like that, or if you, like me, started out doing like film photography, I'm excited because I haven't had a camera that does film photography in a while. I've been using like cinema style cameras and other stuff to do the show, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And my goal is to also get an interview in that really nice park, like right across the street. I think it's so pretty, and I've always wanted to do that. It's just kind of hard to, because the conference is so busy, and I heard from a reliable source, that there's going to be some changes to the conference this year. So prior, like this was just like a kind of a big open door, and like people just walk in and out. Now this year, it sounds like there's going to be some like heavier security, and like there's going to be some like some like metal detectors or other detectors, like you're going through an airport every time you go in. It's going to be crazy because it's already so congested. You know, just getting on and off the escalators is like, like I have to get in. Like I feel like I have to get in line, but I'm on an escalator. I'm actually moving. These are going to be in my head like non-moving flat escalators where you just have to walk through a thing. And apparently those things go off if you have like a laptop with you. So that to me sounds like a nightmare, because there's going to be so many people doing demos and other stuff. We'll see what's going to happen. It just sounds like chaos to me. So if you see us at the RSAC conference, we might be a little frazzled just going in and out with all these new changes. But yeah, it's going to be kind of a new conference. There's new owners, I guess. So there's going to be some changes here. And that's the first one I'm hearing of that's really going to shake things up. So if we see any of you there, you'll probably see us pulled aside to inspect our camera going in and out for a break at the Moscone Center. So hello also everybody in the chat. Good to see James and other James. Wow, there's some Jameses. And then of course SAQ, which I assume stands for Sasquatch. All right, so there was a couple things I wanted to talk about besides the conference today, and we're building mass. We've got our core 38 people. So I'm going to spring my electronics nerd stuff on you just real quick before the rest of the crowd arrives. This is the prototype LoRa board, long range kind of radio board that I've been working with. It's a little breakout that has been able to achieve 4 miles of range so far with a good antenna, with an ideal antenna. And that to me is pretty incredible, because it means I can do all sorts of sensor stuff. I can make all sorts of interesting back and forth communication or single direction. So I can have a sensor that's out there that's like speaking back to a central base station and then publish that to the internet, which is really cool because these chips have Wi-Fi as well. And I've been really kind of enchanted by this. And I think that if you haven't tried this out, I want to make it easier. And I kind of have been thinking about doing a workshop where like, you know, you basically get to these radios and you learn how to make them communicate with each other and like send data to and fro or something like that. So I wanted to show off just real quick how I was learning this. So I am not a great programmer. If anybody has ever talked about my programming abilities, don't let my stars on GitHub fool you. I am not good at programming, but I do know how to throw around a little bit of Python. And this to me is pretty simple. So I've been using these radios that I'm currently getting for less than $5 on AliExpress. Naturally, you need 2 of them. So chalk it up to maybe $10 of actual radio cost here. And I've been just soldering on wires. I'm just using wires. I know that there's better radios. I don't care, or radio antennas. I don't care. For now, these and like wire antennas have been doing me just fine. So with this little bit of code right here, this is all it takes to set up one of these LoRa radios in code so that you can start addressing and using it. Let me make it a size that doesn't cut it off. All right, there we go. So that's not very much. Like basically, like you set the radio frequency, and here in the United States, that's 915 megahertz. That's like unlicensed scientific radio band. You set a couple of pin specific things. This is according to just how you have it connected. And I made a little breakout. Well, sorry, our team made a little breakout that connects to this nugget that I'm using as the main microcontroller. And then after that, you can just send a packet really, really easily. There's a 255 character limit, but on the radio spectrum, it looks like this. So I took a little recording of what it looked like when I was sending out LoRa broadcast last night. And these little, I'm going to play it back, these little kind of chirps that you can see up here, and you can barely kind of see over in this 915 megahertz spectrum. This is me sending a ping, basically. And all these little like chirps are basically either going up or down and contain that information in a way that is really, really simple to receive, even at very, very low power levels. So if you're really far away, the structure of these packets make it so that it's possible to recover the data even under, let's just say, not ideal conditions. So I kind of started flipping through the different ways of demodulating this, and some of them make the pattern of the LoRa radio a little bit more prominent as I go through them. But yeah, like this is a really low cost, interesting way of linking technology together, and you're going to see it in home automation. And I think that you're going to want to learn about this as cybersecurity researchers, as hackers, because all of a sudden you don't need to assume that a hacking tool has access to infrastructure anymore. It can just have one of these radios slapped on it. And I was able to deliver a Rickroll from miles away. And it was pretty cool. Like I have to say. So yeah, like I might even preview a little video actually of the process of doing that, but I'm going to turn off my screen for a second as I pick it up. But making a prototype that's able to demonstrate that, yes, in fact, it is possible to do like a long range attack like this from quite a distance away. Let's see, is this the right video? No, it's totally not. Was fun. Like I got to do a little bit of drone footage. I got to show off how it's possible to basically attack a computer from really, really far. So if I find this in the next 60 seconds, okay, I think I found it. All right, so let me turn this screen back on since I am the director and the participant. Kilian, you're small again. Why is this default? I'm so sorry. I keep shrinking. It feels like a microaggression or like a power move at a certain point if I keep like making you small every time you go away. All right, here we go. So this is the process of enabling one of my normal nuggets, just a regular old nugget, an open source design that anybody can play with, and transforming it into a device that has like up to 4 miles of range. I'm going to mute it because I don't need to hear this. So I used I think this was like an old hotel key card to solder paste this. Our friend Zach created this solder pasting stencil, which was very nice. I put it on this tiny little hot plate that for some reason costs almost $100, but it's the size to like heat up a crouton. And you can see even with that really messy solder pasting, it's stuck on there really well. I soldered this together so that it was ready to go. This is my entire code to send and receive transmissions. And then from that point right there, I was able to send, this is about a mile or so, this Rickroll, which successfully executed. So yeah, I'm going to make a longer video about this. This is kind of the social media version that I've been throwing around. But if you've been curious about like the hacker applications of LoRa, then there's a couple things here. One of them is you can like spoof transmissions. You can very easily like start sending information over LoRa. If the protocol is unauthenticated, that could trick a system into doing something it's not supposed to do. For example, if I was somebody who is listening in on LoRa transmissions and then I just rebroadcasted that transmission at an inopportune moment, then you could probably trick my Rickroll machine into Rickrolling someone when it wasn't supposed to. So there's a way that you can spoof packets. There's probably some other interesting attacks here. So I would say as somebody who tries to stay plugged into emerging technology, like LoRa is now affordable enough that anybody that does radio or hardware hacking or that might be interested in like Wi-Fi hacking, like this is something that you can incorporate into your projects for a super low cost and is pretty awesome and pretty cool. So that's what I want to talk about before we talk about the RSAC conference. Thank you to all 30 whatever people, now 69 people who joined me in that little rant. So anyway, if you're interested in creating your own LoRa code, this is my current prototype for sending pings. And basically this single line right here is all it takes to send something over LoRa radio and then have something on the other end receive. And now you can do all sorts of custom, like sending like packets up to 255 characters because it ends up sending it as a byte string and whatnot. However, I think it's pretty cool that you can make your own custom protocols. You can make your own just very simple protocols where you're just sending like a message that says Rickroll me or something like that. And then the process of receiving is literally just this little loop right here. So it listens for a packet. If it has one, then in this case, it tries to print it out unless there's invalid text. So if it gets something that's not an ASCII character, then it shows a warning. That's it. So this also can use signal strength. So if you're trying to do something that's based on signal strength, like you're trying to hunt down the source of a LoRa transmission by signal strength, there's also some really cool stuff you can do with that. So you can kind of play hot and cold and try to track down the source of a transmitter. Or you can also do some things with radio tuning. So if you wanted to test the strength of your radio, if you wanted to make your own custom antenna and like kind of see like at what length it ends up being strongest, this is something where with a couple lines of Python code, you can actually make your own radio tester. And there's a really cool YouTube video showing how to do this that I thought was really fun. So for hobbyists, for anybody that enjoys doing this sort of thing in their spare time and maybe wants to supercharge a project that already had long-ish range, but maybe you have a big house, or maybe your Wi-Fi isn't evenly spread out throughout the area, or you want to have contact to a sensor where it's not possible to have like a Wi-Fi radio there, like it's kind of far away or remote. This is a solution to that because it uses very little power to achieve kind of a stunning range, honestly. And by connecting this to one of the official radios, I was able to get pretty crazy range on it. So anyway, that was my project of the week. The LoRa code right here is basically the default code that comes with the documentation for CircuitPython. So if you're looking for a fun project, or if you are somebody who wants to be aware of all the threats that are out there, this new super long range technology is coming for hacking tools. And I don't think I'm the first to implement it, but doing a super long range Rickroll, it was definitely one of my goals. Pushing it as far as possible is going to be the next goal to see what kind of range I can get. Did anybody see Hack5's new video, the antivirus thing? I haven't yet. I'll have to check it out. Let's see. There's a little key they put inside badge readers. LoRa would be great for getting them in almost real time. Yeah, so my team is actually very interested in using this technology to make a fun and interactive DEF CON badge. And there's a layer on top of this called Meshtastic, which uses like a packetized structure to basically do kind of like a mesh network that also could run over the internet if you wanted to. So there's things like Meshtastic. There's other things that run on top of this. There's ATAC, which a lot of like tactical people are interested in. Yeah, there's a lot of things here that I think are really interesting for hackers who, especially like radio hacking. So that's my field. I'm very interested in that. And this is the most interested I've been since I learned about Wi-Fi hacking originally. So that's pretty excited if you don't know about me. So, all right, let's talk more about the RSAC conference. So the RSA conference, or sorry, RSAC now conference, since there's new owners, is a little bit difficult to break into. Let me give you an example. You start out strong, right? Like I started out strong. Let's just say that. I started out on page 1 and I was reading every single one. Securing AI. There is no try, only do. I don't know what this means, like so then I look at the speaker, like, do I know where they're from? Like, like sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And then like I get through it and I'm like, man, this page is really long. And then I keep going like, man, this page is really long. And then I'm like, okay, well, there's only one more. And then I go to it, and then it generates another page, and it just keeps going and going and going and going. So by the time you get to page 17, you're just like, all of these look the same to me, and you're just scrolling at maximum speed. So I have gone through. I guess I just can't read. Like, there's like something that says like out of how many it's showing, but there's like 527 talks or events that are happening at this conference. Most people do not have time to go through all of those talks or events, but guess what? I did today. So let's talk about some of the events that I think are going to be really cool. And we'll also talk about some of the events that we are doing that you might see us at that involve people coming from Varonis. So first up, I'm particularly excited about this one. Bare Necessities, Ukraine's experience facing APTs and building resilience. Of all the people, so there seems to be a couple of categories. And this is just me speaking informally as somebody that's been going to this conference for a very long time. This entire conference is kind of like a PR masterpiece where every company's PR department tries to make their company sound relevant by talking about how whatever threat that they protect against is the biggest thing people should be worried about, and et cetera. Finding people who are credible experts talking about lived experience that is actually interesting and relevant to today is the hardest thing about going to RSAC. So if I find something like that, I'm like, yes, and I bookmark it. And this one was, I'm like, okay, of all the people in the world, who do I want to know about building resilience other than the people who've been facing some of the ugliest APT attacks that we've covered on our show for the last several years? I'm like, absolutely, Ukraine is going to be the people that I want to hear from. So this is a talk on preparedness, response, and recovery in cyber war, as told by first responders. I imagine these are very busy people, and the titles make me think that this is going to be a well-resourced talk that has people who have been on the front lines doing this in very, very real scenarios. One of my good friends was talking about a cyber competition where like the NSA, CIA, like whatever, just take some of their dirtiest cyber people and pit them against basically cyber security students. The students have to use only open source things that are like published like well in advance, and they can't do anything fancy. And the hackers are overpowered. They have access to like whatever they want. So it's a lopsided competition where the defenders almost always lose. And that sounds like the only competition I've ever heard of that's more stressful, or at least as stressful as what these people have probably been through lately. So I'm excited to see this one in particular because I think that like they have a lot of experience that would make me curious to hear what it's going to be like. Okay, here's a question also in the chat related to something that I know a lot about. Let's see. Do you recommend buying a 8X Wemos D1 Mini Pro with antenna? Let's use it as a Wi-Fi Pineapple, cheap replacement. Okay, so I work with a lot of microcontrollers, and the difference between like a ESP8266 based microcontroller like the D1 Mini and a Wi-Fi Pineapple is the Wi-Fi Pineapple is basically a Linux box with a bunch of wireless compatible network adapters plugged into it. So it's way more powerful, and it's going to be able to do a lot more attacks than the D1 Mini. Also, you need to be a little bit comfortable with soldering because that particular D1 Mini you're talking about does have the ability to add a strong antenna to it, but you need to move over a very, very tiny 0 ohm resistor in order to actually enable that antenna. So if you plug it in, it's not actually going to be connected to anything. And I did a whole null byte episode not knowing this, and the results that we were getting on screen just made absolutely no sense, and we just plowed through it because we were tired. And then later we found out, oh yeah, we needed to resolder a resistor in order for the whole thing to work. So that was embarrassing. Learned from my experience. But yeah, so you'll never get the same performance out of like a microcontroller, or you will rarely get the same performance out of a microcontroller as you will from like a full Linux system with access to like compatible hardware. It's just two very different beasts, I would say. One of them also costs about $1.80, maybe $2 for the D1 Mini Pro, and the second one costs about $280. So you've got a factor of 10 there in terms of like price difference between the two, and comparable power, because the Wi-Fi Pineapple out of the box is ready to just start hacking. The D1 Mini, you're going to need to do some custom programming. However, don't let that I mean, for $2, you do get a lot for those $2. You can still do a lot of really fun things. So okay, so moving on through RSAC highlights. So how is AI changing the malware landscape? Here's the problem. Every single talk sounds like this. Today, like this year, I have seen more talks on how is AI changing this, how is AI
Yep.
changing that, AI changing the landscape. If I had to just condense it, it's basically like generative AI and then AI
Mm-hmm.
is what we're talking about this year at RSAC. However, the source matters, and in this case, it is threat intelligence strategist at Google, which makes me think that this talk could actually be pretty decent. So when I look at people who might have really interesting perspectives, I usually look like what company do they work for, what is their job there, and if they happen to have like a job at a company that specifically lines up with dealing with that in the wild, then I'm like, okay, maybe I want to check out this talk. So that's one I'm looking forward to. We've also got State of Cybersecurity Year in Review. Oh yeah, that's Google CEO Mandiant. Thought I had. Oh yeah, Homeland Security in the Age of Artificial Intelligence. Okay, here's another flavor of talk at RSAC. Government people will come, and in this case, the Secretary of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security will come and actually like talk to the community, take questions, and participate, which is kind of crazy. Like it's weird that out of all the cybersecurity conferences, this is the one that the federal government and that like other agencies feel most comfortable at. Because it's the one that I feel least comfortable at.
Right.
Even though I've been a speaker there, you know. So
Sure.
there's a lot of like bigwigs in like the government and private sector that show up to this, but the government ones are kind of unique because they have really interesting and like unique perspectives on what's going on in the world when it comes to law enforcement, when it comes to law, when it comes to homeland security. So I'm always interested to hear what people with these unique jobs have to say. Often they don't say much because they're government people and they don't want to get yelled at for creating a PR disaster, but they will discuss interesting use cases and trends and stuff, but don't expect them to drop any secrets or bombshells because like, I will warn you, I went in with the expectation that like the lady from the CIA was going to whisper secrets about these cyber conflicts in my ear. And it was like, it was as though she was facing a row of reporters, you know, like, so a lot of these are very prepared. However, they're worth checking out. So especially the ones that allow questions, I think that is like absolutely something that you should do. And then, yes, also the other speaker here, the United States Science Envoy, Artificial Intelligence, also seems like someone who would have a lot of interesting things to say. And she's also one of the keynote speakers. So this one I would put on your list if you want to check out some interesting policy talks. Project Power Up, fighting electronic warfare to keep Ukraine's grid safe. Another one, I feel like the first responders in these cases are going to have some pretty wild stories. And since we covering the news have seen that Ukraine's power grid has been the primary target of Russian cyber attacks and also kinetic attacks for a good amount of time now, I'm going to be really interested to see what kinds of electronic warfare they've been up against, and they promise to air out some pretty juicy details. So some of the best talks I've seen at RSAC were by Ukrainian people talking about the Russian threat of aggression, which like manifested in a very real way since the last talk I saw. But talking about some of the things that they'd seen in the field, they were very open about like what kinds of threats were happening, the impact it was having. And I think that of all the kinds of speakers, like ones with personal lived experience that's like relevant and real, that are very unfiltered in the way they're talking about their experiences, those are the best talks you're going to get at RSAC. So this is another one that I would recommend. Tackling deepfakes, wars, and other security threats in the Gen AI world. This is with people from the FBI, or at least one person from the FBI. Where are they? Yeah. So
Kody, it's like you're playing Spot the Fed here on the conference roster.
I know, but instead it's like almost half of the panelists.
Right.
Yeah. There we go. FBI AI task force. So if you had a question to ask the guy who is the FBI AI task force guy that's been seeing how these have been popping up in real crimes, this is the one to go. Yes. This is basically a big old conference of glowies talking about what it's like to fight cybercrime on a global scale. So if you're interested in the Fed perspective, this is your moment. Honestly, it's a really weird confluence of like hackers and like companies and feds, because like all these conferences are a different ratio, and RSAC is definitely more towards like the corporations and feds and stuff. So there's hackers there because these are the people we work for. However, we are definitely in the minority, and it's kind of weird to be in their conference, like seeing what kind of these large organizations' perspectives are, as opposed to these other hacker conferences that very much value individual perspective, like DEF CON.
Right.
All right. So next up, I gotta say, this is a PR thing where when more than one company is talking about the security of adult toys, you know that there's a trend going on. There's not one, but two different companies that are doing this. So I'm gonna say they're interchangeable. I just wanted you guys to know that it is apparently now like a PR trend to have your security researchers talk about securing adult toys. I don't know why this is the year of that, but as a trend follower in marketing and PR, it is now edgy and cool to talk about keeping adult toys safe, which I think is very positive, honestly. I don't see most companies adopting this marketing strategy, but at least two companies this year have, and I think that that's fine, honestly. I just think I just am I'm a little surprised by the trends. Sorry. All right. We also have web application hacking 101. Look, mom, no tools. So this one, I just think that like it's going to be interesting to see how people can get started with web app pen testing, like without tools, because I think that that's the major barrier for a lot of people. And everybody in this position seems as though chief exploiter. Okay. Everybody's
Sure.
also well positioned to give like good advice in this case. So we also have Director's Cut, a dummy's guide to leading a global cybercrime program. Another, as the people in the audience would say, glowy talk. And in this case, we have the Interpol director of cybercrime. So we often talk about like these ransomware gangs and like the whole cybercrime infrastructure around initial access brokers and how that plays out over a global scale. This is the person responsible for keeping track of all that. And Interpol has also, and other European police agencies have done some really interesting things lately with disrupting cybercrime marketplaces by basically being like, haha, fooled you. We took over this marketplace 6 years ago. We know about everything and we're coming for you. And also every other marketplace is fake too. So just by trying to inspire like fear by popping up and kind of like disrupting these marketplaces and making strategic arrests, like they've done their best to disrupt this in whatever way they can, and they've been pretty successful, at least as far as I've seen the number of marketplaces that were reporting being busted. Then again, they could just be replaced with like, you know, other new marketplaces. Sure. But it's really difficult, I think, for people now to tell whether or not these European police agencies are running a particular marketplace that they're trying to buy illegal things off of. So really interesting dynamic we're seeing with European police agencies and cybercrime. So I would be really interested to hear the perspective on this panel. And if you are interested in that sort of thing, I think perhaps you could ask some interesting questions. Questions at the end of this. Definitely your moment to ask something weird. I used to always go up to and like ask a question, and sometimes like it was a weird question, and the talks are always recorded, and that would be my moment to shine. So don't be shy. Go up, ask the Interpol director of cybercrime your most personal question. It's your moment if you pay the full entry fee to go to RSAC. All right, so this is an interesting one, and I don't know if this is also a trend. So ask me anything closed door session with Joe Sullivan. So Joe Sullivan I had to look this up because I was just like, Joe, like, why do I know that? So looked it up very quickly. Joe Sullivan was apparently the person who worked at Uber as their first CSO, and was sent to jail as a result of paying hackers $100,000 to basically cover up a data breach. So the like I only remember the most rudimentary details of this, but I remember reporting way back then that like what had happened was there was a data breach, and the person just asked for money, and they tried to make it seem like they were a security researcher or it was a bug bounty, but the circumstances were like really did not seem like they were either friendly or in the spirit of the bug bounty community. Let's just say it really just did seem like it was an exploitation attack. So that information was not shared. And as a result, there was a lot of information of customers that was leaked. And yeah, so this was not a popular decision and ended up leading to criminal prosecution, which changed the way a lot of people saw how this job should be done and what to do in the event of a data breach. So the fact that he's going to be answering questions and like basically you can ask about the experiences learned here. Like, I think it's kind of interesting to have somebody that got like basically in so much trouble for making a decision that like back then I mean, he's kind of saying that was the purview of the company's legal department and wasn't really his call. So like, I think this is kind of going to be an insightful conversation. And if you've ever worried about getting in trouble, like doing a cybersecurity job, asking someone who actually did get in trouble for doing their job, but like in a way that was potentially not the right way of doing it. I don't know. Like it seems like an interesting talk to me. All right, I'm going to breeze through these next ones. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say that one in particular, I'm curious. Hopefully I can sneak over and go see that one too, because this was such a big case. And I know you and I talked about this. This was big news in the corporate world, and where I spend a lot of my time, it was a wake-up call for a lot of people in CISO roles and executive roles that there are very real consequences in a way for mishandling security incidents. And not to say that's, endemic or common, but sometimes I think people perceive security incidents as maybe a less than type of situation. I mean, heck, we see all these breaches constantly, just especially because of the patchwork laws of like privacy and governance and data privacy we have in the U.S. But this is a case where something bad happened and somebody went to jail. And I think people started really paying attention to security at that time. So really interested to see his insights.
Yeah, me too. I think I'm always a little leery at first, where if someone has like a criminal prosecution for hacking, I'm like, okay, I need to know the details. Like, let's go. But this is one where I'm like, wow, no, that seems like especially in the complexity of a company with so many people making decisions, like it really does seem like it would be a difficult environment to make some of those choices in. So hearing those insights, yeah, I think would be really cool. We also have a question for the last Interpol guy. Let's see. So how do you run them form scraping bots, and can you OSS them? Yeah, can you open source the bots that you use to scrape cybercrime markets, please? And here's my GitHub. Here's my GitHub username. You can share me on the project. I will only do good things with them. I promise. All right. Let's see. Next up, we have, can you spot a fake AI and cyber risk in luxury retail? I just didn't know this was a problem. Ralph, the chief information security officer of Ralph Lauren, is getting in on this, and also like somebody from the FBI. So like this is like when I see like one of those commercials with like Martha Stewart and like Snoop Dogg, I'm like, that's an interesting pair. Like what are we up to? This is also when we have the Ralph Lauren like lady and also the FBI guy together on a panel talking about deep fakes. Like I'm actually kind of interested in this. Like I don't know why. Like again, and also the moderator, Nordstrom Inc. security officer, like like it seems like this is like a retail specific kind of thing. But as a hacker, I'm just like, what is going on here? Like where there's smoke, there's fire. Like why? Like how is this actually a problem? And is this something that I need to look out for? So typically, like I'm just looking for like quirky or like interesting talks. This one struck me as just like, what the hell is going on here, and why is this enough of a problem that like the FBI and like Ralph Lauren have come to this conference to educate us about it. So again, this seems to be targeted at the luxury retail market, which I would not say I am in, but I will say that the mix up here caused me great interest in terms of like what is on.
I'd like to speculate on that one just quickly too. I wonder if you think about it, some of these luxury retailers and things like that, the counterfeit game, depending on the particular market, is multi-millions of dollars, and they're getting way better. So I wonder if they're going to talk about like specifically, actually see at the end there, intellectual property. So if you can get like the schematics or the specs for like a watch or a handbag or something like that, you could crank out like a virtually identical fake. And that's, to get like the technical data package to produce something like that, it's not as easy as like you go buy the thing and you take the measurements. It's not that easy. So really interested to hear about that too, because the counterfeit business for luxury goods is just blowing up. So interesting there.
And here's the thing. I always do this. I'm always just like, yes, this is gonna, like, I get excited. Like, they're gonna talk about like the counterfeit, like supply chain and how it like
Right.
AI has like made adversaries more scary. But I feel like in the end, Kilian, they're gonna tell me how to posture my organization's like risk like perspective, and I'm just gonna walk away a little bit pissed off. So again, like these are talks that I found interesting. I don't necessarily endorse them. This one, you know, it could really, really, really go either way. So
Yeah.
take this endorsement with a grain of salt. All right, securing AI apps with OWASP top 10 for large language models. Okay, so OWASP top 10 is like some sort of like, you know, how we look at like what 10 vulnerabilities are going to be the most exploited or the most bountiful in terms of like bug bounties and what you should know in order to win bug bounty competitions or just like bug bounty prizes. So those top 10 vulnerabilities are usually by volume, like in terms of like how often they see these vulnerabilities. And one of the speakers here is head of workshops and demos at the AI Village. And that to me signals a good time. So I'm really interested to see this one just because they actually seem like they're going to talk about material that I, as a hacker, could either use or, you know, will be interested in when it relates to AI models. And OWASP top 10 is, you know, something that we recognize as like kind of the gold standard for getting started with web vulnerability pen testing. So if we're talking about AI, I'm kind of interested in that. Again, this whole conference is just baiting AI, like left and right. Like I just see AI everywhere. But this one, the speakers here seem pretty knowledgeable. And like, because this is somebody in a position that probably does a lot of demos around AI, I expect this one to actually be fire. So I'm going to check it out. This one I will probably actually go to. All right, so here's my number one endorsement because I love Patrick, and every time I open the news and I see he's in it, I'm just like, well, it makes sense. Like he'd be the guy to ask about that. All right, so I would consider Patrick a friend. Patrick Wardle is an ex-NSA researcher who focuses on macOS, and specifically, they have a suite of tools that makes it really easy to detect the sorts of things that malware does in order to survive. So I have at the top of my computer a number of tools made by Patrick. This one's made by Patrick. There's other ones up here that are always looking for stuff going on that might be suspicious. And like I have this one telling me if my camera is on, and I can see right now that I have my Yeti microphone active and then my cam link is active and they're sharing video. So this is like a way that I can basically tell if something is hooking my video and watching my screen or listening to my audio. It can tell me if there are things installed on my computer that shouldn't be there. And it can tell me if something is rapidly encrypting files on my computer. So Patrick is the creator of all of these. And he does this all by figuring out the way that malware works and then kind of like making tools that catch that behavior. And then he open sources them and makes them free to macOS users. So when I talk to journalists, his tools are one of the number one things I recommend that they install to make sure that if something does happen, they get warning signs, they get alerts, they otherwise get notified that something bad is happening on their macOS system because the built-in tools don't cut it. Now, Patrick, I don't know what his relationship is with Apple. I feel like they're always cutting him off of stuff or like, you know, like not responding to things he's finding or whatever, because they're a big company and he's, you know, he's a guy. But yeah, like I constantly see him pushing the boundaries of macOS security. So if you have a Mac, as I do, if you are interested in macOS security, like Patrick is one of the go-to people that you will see quoted in almost every article about major breaking macOS like security news. And he's also just a super cool guy that's really fun to listen to. I just find him to be one of my favorite people in the like hacker sphere. So he's often at RSAC. I think he's awesome, and you should check out his talk if you want to learn about the way that he's made these open source tools and how, I'm not going to say easy it is, but like how simple it is to build some of these tools once you understand the way that malware works and what kinds of behaviors you can target as like an indicator that something bad is happening. So I don't throw my full weight behind a lot of things, but Patrick's tools are really great. I use them myself and they're free, you know? So what more could you ask for? Do they report back to the NSA? Who cares? They're free. Just install them. And maybe, you know, use the charger at the NSA booth too. But I'm just kidding. They're all open source, so you can check them out. But not only is Patrick a really great speaker, but I think that if you learn about using his tools, your Mac or the Macs of people you care about will be a little bit safer. So this is probably one of my highest recommended ones I have to throw out there. All right. Life after the breach, a survivor's guide. I'm just, like these people seem like they would be relatively well positioned to talk about what happens after a breach, especially the guy from Google, like Mandy and Google Cloud. I bet that they've seen some crazy stuff. So for people that are talking about like recovery, I think that sounds cool. AI, law, policy, common sense, suggestions to stay out of trouble. Guess who's talking about this one? Guess who the speaker is, Kilian?
Someone, I don't know, someone from Google.
A bunch of lawyers, or I guess
Oh,
yeah, but it was just
one
like
lawyer.
of all the people to talk about like how you could get in trouble with AI, like a lawyer would probably be the one to tell you like what kind of behaviors can get you in trouble. So I was actually kind of interested in this one because I was like, I'm doing stuff with AI. How close am I to getting in trouble? So this one seemed pretty cool. I figured it, like of all the technical speakers, yeah, a lawyer is going to be the one to give you what's up on this new legal landscape around AI. And I think so many people are uncertain about the legal landscape that this would be a pretty valuable and cool perspective to hear. Again with adults, with the cybersecurity of adult toys, I don't know why companies are suddenly so yes, pen test partners Inc. Okay, you guys are allowed, but I don't know why several companies are suddenly so concerned with the cybersecurity of adult toys. But it is a theme at RSAC. I'm not making this up. You just saw it from me. Multiple different businesses have pursued this as their primary PR strategy for RSAC. So interesting trends this year, but overall, those are my picks for the most interesting talks at the RSAC conference. Again, you can see me and Kilian there, and we will be talking about all sorts of cool and interesting things. I guess at the booth in exchange for points and swag if you want to come by.
Right.
So, yeah, that was a lot.
But Kody, that's not all.
That's not
There's
all.
more.
There are also a couple of things going on that involve other people at our company. So let me pull them up. So one of them is from our friend. Actually, I think I had Matt Radilak on here one time, like a really long time ago. Let me pull that one up first, as he may be familiar to our most loyal, and by most loyal I mean our longest viewers. All right. So I'll let you announce this one. All right. So the first one up is by Matt Radilak. Yeah.
Yep.
Where's it? Where's his bio? Yeah.
There he is.
Cool. There you go. All right.
Yeah. No, this is a good one. I know Matt's been working on this for a long time. We've been having just infinite conversations about AI. His is more, I think, of a wider discussion because we're going to talk about another AI one. Shocking, both are about AI. but if you think about it, aside from AI built into products currently, a lot of people that we're talking to are looking to build their own custom ones or customize an existing model. The problem is, as you're going through and doing that, you have to train the models and feed it data. And what we're seeing is it's so easy in the corporate world to get data that you really maybe shouldn't have into these AI models. So you end up leaking all sorts of stuff that you had never really intended to. So he's going to talk about really how to kind of go about it, how to look at some of the real world examples that we've seen and folks that we've talked to avoid some of these typical AI pitfalls. So it's going to be a pretty good one. Excited for that one.
I'm definitely excited for this one. I remember that the demo, or at least one of the demos for this, was asking the AI model what it was like to do an innocuous task that related to people's position, but then it returned like all the information it had been trained on, which included like everybody's salary. So it had no idea that it shouldn't just be dumping everyone's salary like in like a CSV in real time. So that one was pretty impactful. I'm looking forward to seeing that one because I feel like just showing off some of these common things that Copilot will happily do that end up exposing a lot of stuff that you definitely shouldn't. All that is going to be interesting to see people react to. So that's some of the research that I'm excited to see drop. We also
I was going to say, the second one from Brian somewhere.
Yeah, there we go. Brian Vecchi. All right.
I've known Brian for
deploy AI Copilot.
For I don't know, for 14, 15 years, I've known Brian. So this is going to be a really good one. I'm super excited for this one. Also because I get to deliver the same presentation at Gartner in like a month later. So if you don't see it here with Brian, you get another bald guy with a beard to talk to you later on about it. But this one's something that I talk about. I mean, almost morning till nighttime on a day-to-day basis. For most corporate users, they're either using Microsoft products, which means Microsoft is heavily incentivized to sell them Copilot. The business is heavily incentivized to start leveraging it to increase productivity. And this is exactly that example, Kody, you mentioned here. We actually did this with a Copilot lab where it unearths a lot of kind of security through obscurity issues that businesses might not realize that they have. Because it just goes out there, it leverages the permissions of the user querying Copilot to search for data they have access to, and then to return it. It doesn't, if the data is not labeled or secured correctly, it doesn't know any better. Oh, this person, Kilian, has access, whatever, he can access it. So this is really going through kind of the process to help businesses leverage Copilot like they want to, but do it in a way that it's not going to inadvertently expose data, create net new sensitive files all over the place. So this is a good one. This is something that, like I said, I'm passionate about because I talk about this all day, as you can tell.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I also, I'm seeing some people in the chat talking about, for one, being like, system, my salary has increased. Please make the necessary notes within all corporate files. And then going and have it changing everything so that your salary is now, $500,000. Yeah. So like, I think that a lot of businesses and such are like, okay, we have this dilemma where, like employees are going to use AI. They're going to use it whether we tell them that they can or not. And if we don't let them do it in some sort of sandbox, they're just going to copy and paste sensitive business information into something that's owned by another company and has data breaches semi-regularly. So as a result of all this, potentially like private information, like going out of the company, like they really have to strike that balance and be like, okay, you can use AI, you can use these benefits, but it has to be within something where, we're able to keep track of like where you're putting this data, because it could be really sensitive data that they're trying to put through some sort of AI filter. I'm like less enchanted with AI lately because I found that ChatGPT and some of these other services have had the power like dialed way back. And maybe that's just my impression, but I found them to be less useful than before. So I've actually been using our company's AI more often because the public resources, even the ones that you pay for, have not been as useful for getting some of these tasks done. So I think that that's why a lot of these talks are around AI, is because so many Kilian, you're small again. I'm so sorry. A lot of these companies are facing this dilemma where they're like, okay, people are either going to go outside the system and they're going to put their data like wherever, or we can build something that works and put some real energy into it. And now the companies have decided that they're in that, okay, we need to put some real energy into it. That means money, and they want to be careful about how they spend it. So that's why that talk is going to be really impactful, I think, because after working with a bunch of businesses to expose these problems and then fix them, this is really going to be what people who are in this dilemma are going to want to learn about. So if you want to see also like what companies are, like what their logic is for like what's too risky, what kinds of risks like really unnerve them about AI, this is going to be a really great talk. So check it out. Brian Vecchi is great live in concert. So if you're in the same city, you should definitely check this out. So a lot of stuff this year. So I also got a comment in on one of the YouTube videos that just says, let Kilian talk more. So Kilian, you got anything to say?
What do we want to talk about? I don't know.
The people want to hear from you.
Let's pick a comment and go for it. I bet they turned the heat down to reduce hallucinations. That also stunts creativity in the AI. I would agree with that. I mean, I think to James's point, and actually Kody, back to the point you made, AI is big money now. Its goal is to make trillions of dollars and become commercialized. And we've transcended, I think, the kind of early adopter stage a little bit, where it's not just a curiosity for us hacker-minded kind of people. This is general public type of situation. So I think based on even some of the news articles and stuff coming out about the weird behavior of AI, they've probably taken the much more conservative route of maybe let's make it less useful for us trying to push the limits of it, but make it more broadly mass appeal. It's like the punk rock underground band going mainstream. They've sold out. It's not punk anymore. Grandpa listens to I don't know, Green Day. Someone's gonna give me hate for that. That
Well,
also
Kilian,
shows my age too.
do you remember that that news story of the guy who like made a fake audio recording, implicated like making the principal of the school that was going to fire him say a bunch of like really terrible racist things and then and sent it out? He followed instructions from ChatGPT on
Right.
how to make the AI based audio recording. So like if I was that guy's public defender, you know, I'm going to be like, well, he basically put in the equivalent of a Google search and it gave him like a step-by-step guided tour to how to commit this crime. You know, like, why aren't we regulating this tool? Like, I
Right.
feel like a lot of these companies might be feeling the heat of people
Yeah.
starting to use these tools for just blatant crime. Because that was the first time I've heard of like an AI recording being used for like just crime. We've heard of like, you know, like AI deepfakes and stuff for voice phishing, but this is like, you know, just like a person-on-person crime that
Right.
seems to have been guided by AI. So like I guess the argument becomes if an AI assistant can turn a normal person into a savvy cyber criminal that's able to generate a deep fake and distribute it and cause like reputational damage and harm, then is it too creative? Like, should it give up on tasks that take too much work? And that's where I'm starting to see like an unwillingness to take on tasks or complete things that used to just be something you would just crank away at. And I felt comfortable like spending like a good amount of resources on. So I think we're kind of at a turning point for that. It's going to be interesting to see what people have access to versus
No, I agree. I agree for sure. The other thing too is because it is getting commercialized and because we're starting to see real world instances of abuse or misuse or surfacing information that's harmful, I think a lot of the companies are starting to put in much more diligence checking it to make sure the output is not offensive or racist or dangerous or derogatory or all the other negative implications, all the things that I think we fear AI can easily turn into. And aside from some of the lawsuits about what data they're training it on, I think they're being a little bit more, or I hope they will also be a little bit more careful about curating the input too, because there's a lot of weird stuff, implicit bias, and all sorts of other negative things that can turn up if you don't very carefully think about how you're raising your AI.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And like, I think that Europe has started passing regulation around AI. I don't know if we're going to do that in the United States, but in the US, sometimes we regulate through the courts and just have people like, you know, honestly, like doing criminal defense, like blaming other companies for this sort of thing, or otherwise like blaming these companies for the crimes that their products might facilitate. And that might end up being the driving factor in the way that some of these tools are designed in the near future.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, we have an Arch Linux user in the chat. Congratulations. I just wanted to highlight you and give you that recognition you need. All right, so that's just about all of the time we have for today. If you want to support the chat, you can go to varonis.com/Kody, that's Kody, and let them know that you enjoy the show. You don't have to pay us anything. Just go to that link and they know that we should keep doing this every week, twice a week. And I will see everybody on Wednesday. So I have a birthday coming up, but I have a fake birthday that I've been putting on my online profile since I was a teenager. So the internet thinks that my birthday is coming up in like roughly like a month or so. Yes, a lot of people are going to be wishing me a happy birthday like next month, but my actual birthday is coming up. So I'm going to be out, I think, traveling for a little bit for that. So you'll probably see me in a new exotic location for the next Friday stream. So I'll see you then, Kilian.
Great stuff. Well, happy early birthday or late birthday. I'm not sure which one. What's real anymore?
Yeah, you have to create reasonable doubt enough that the majority of the people finder websites like have the wrong information.
I love it.
Cool. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us. We got 132 people in the chat today, so getting a little crowded in here. It's cool. I like it. Good energy. So, all right, everyone. I will see you for our Friday chat, same time. Goodbye, everyone.